So I'm Sandy Ashley, and I'm a member of the St. Francis Peace Through Justice ministry here at St. Mary's. And I thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. I think the audience is a really big part of a presentation, so I appreciate that, and all of you being supportive and being interested in this topic, which is a really important one. So let's start with a prayer. This prayer is actually from the Sisters of Charity of New York. It's a prayer for trafficking victims. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O Lord, no person chooses to be exploited. No child chooses to be abused. Help us to be the rescuers, shining your divine light into the darkest corners of our world, giving hope to victims of human trafficking, speaking out to defend their dignity, ending this crime against humanity. Emboldened by the charity of Christ, we raise our voices in prayer, faithful that one day through our efforts, every person will be free to fulfill their destiny. Amen. Amen. So, the inspiration for a presentation on human trafficking came from many different places. Please, there's lots of seats up here. I know that's really hard for Catholics, but and you can just step outside. Look at the whole first row.
I'm gonna be in the front row.
It came from Father Tim saw a film and a few years ago, and came to me and said, "We have got to have a presentation on this. It's very important and it's just terrific." And and then Larry Irwin brought it up in an SFPTJ meeting, and we were working on presenters and scheduling and all those kinds of things, and it just took us a while to get it going. So I personally was solicited by a very nice man when I was 22 years old, newly married, skiing in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and working in a cafe. And this man, a guy not too much older than me, came into the cafe at times. The cafe was called the Waffle Shack, and we called it the Awful Waffle. So 1973, but it's a resort town, and I was solicited, and I just said no. I knew nothing about human trafficking at that time, not at all. But newly married, I knew I wasn't going to go and become a sex worker, so that took care of that. But I don't know who I would be or where my life would be if I had been manipulated or coerced or threatened into that life. So, and a friend of mine's son here in Montana she and her son were flying to Las Vegas, and he was about 13 years old at the time, and they weren't in the same row. He was a row behind her. And she could hear him visiting with the other person in the seat, and she didn't think too much of it. Well, the plane lands, and they go to get off the plane, and he kind of lets her know to wait, don't go out ahead of me. And so she did, she waited, and he told her that this very nice man had been pouring alcohol into his cup. He didn't drink it, and had told him about this swanky hotel, and he was going to take him there, and he could stay with him, and that would all just be great. And when they went to the stewardess, or the flight attendant, as soon as my friend heard about this, the flight attendant told them that was not an uncommon pattern for people soliciting young people for human trafficking, for sex trafficking between rural areas in Las Vegas. So we can start to think, well, this isn't an issue in Helena, Montana, is it? But actually it is, and I think confident that Sheriff Dutton will address that more. So the Catholic Church has responded to this threat in several ways. There's a patron saint of human trafficking, as some of you may know. It's Saint Josephine Bakhita. She was captured in Sudan in 1870, tortured and enslaved, And eventually, the family she was with took her to Italy, and she managed to get away and become, and I might not pronounce this right, Canosian's sister. She is seen as a symbol of dignity and hope. Pope Francis designated February 8th as her first day, it's her feast day, as the annual World Day of Prayer, Reflection, and Action against human trafficking. He called for efforts to address the root causes of human trafficking and to build societies based on freedom, justice, and peace. Catholic social teaching focuses on meeting the needs of children and adults who are vulnerable and protecting their rights and freedoms with love. So we are very appreciative of Sheriff Dutton and his wife sharing their evening with us tonight and his expertise with human trafficking right here in the Helena area. So please welcome Larry Irwin, who will introduce Leo.
I first became acquainted with Leo in my former highway patrol career when he was helping teach first responder skills, EMS skills at the Basic Academy, and I was there also assisting. And but he and his partner Will Cussman were paramedics also, and aside from being on the sheriff's office. And they demonstrated right away putting in a nasal airway down their through their nose, down their throat for the whole class. They're, well, wow, look what they can do. More tricks. And I say that with humor, but also admiration, because Leo comes now with 42 years of sworn experience of a variety and an intensity of disciplines that we really need in leadership. And he's earned it over, that's a long time, and he wants to go again. So we certainly can benefit from what he has to say for us this evening, and we thank him for being willing to come talk to us. There were tremendous logistical problems with anybody else that we were trying to bring in to speak to us, and yet he said yes right away. And so there again, the kind of person that we really need. So, Leo Dutton.
Well, thank you all. Somebody said they were going to be recording this just so I'd be on my best behavior.
That would be me.
There we go. All right. I'll try not to jump around too much.
Please.
I do sometimes. So,
You won't have to worry about not holding still.
the thing that I
Won't be my
start
fault.
out with is philosophies. Now, who in here is a cat lover? Come on, there gotta be some of you. And a dog lover?
Dog lover.
All right. I'm personally along the dog and cat philosophy. So the dog philosophy is the dog sees you, you feed him, you take care of him, the dog notices that, the dog watches that. It says, you feed me, you take care of me, you take me to the vet. Sometimes I don't like that, but you do. And you pick up after me in the yard, all those things. You must be a god. That's a dog philosophy. The cat philosophy is, you feed me, you pet me, you pick up after me. Sometimes you take me to the vet. I don't much like that sometimes. I must be a god.
That's true.
That's the difference between the cat and the dog. So the other one that because my wife's here, we were traveling and got back and standing there waiting to get our luggage. She passed out onto the carousel, but she came around slowly. Just kidding, just kidding. Thank you for laughing, because that's as good as it's gonna get. So,
Stand still.
by way of background, Larry did a good job. He forgot to put in there that I used to rope tornadoes and fix windmills. So those are the various skills that come associated with the job. My wife and I originally from eastern Montana, where you had to do most everything yourself because there's a lot of dirt between light bulbs and not a lot of people. But the friends you make are friends for life. Kind of like here. Once you make a friend, it's a friend for life. By way of background, I've worked myself up into being sheriff, and I appreciate that. I've been your sheriff for 17 years. Doing so, you develop relationships, and you develop relationships here locally, and then statewide, and then nationwide. And the nationwide is where I'm going to come with the talk tonight. I'm the representative for Montana to the National Sheriff's Association. I'm also on the board for the Western State Sheriff's Association that represents 19 states. The West is just a little bit different than the East. Not making fun of them. We're still full service. In the East, there's so much population that the sheriffs are relegated to taking care of the jails and taking care of civil matters. Here in the West, we're still full service. We still take care of everything. But we still have one thing in common, and that is we don't like crime. And that's why you invited me here tonight. So I'm gonna start off with some of the national trends. A friend of mine, he's a sheriff in Canyon, Idaho, which is outside of Boise. Anyway, he goes around speaking. He's quite educated. He let me borrow his notes anyway. Thought I would do okay with it. I do work with him a lot. He's past president of the National Sheriff's Association. I'm past president of the Western State Sheriff's Association. What we share is a passion against human trafficking, and I'm going to go into the difference between human trafficking and the kind of the indentured servitude. So I'm going to read this definition. So, human trafficking involves the exploitation of individuals through force, fraud, coercion, for labor or commercial sex. It occurs in every state. And you think, well, I don't see it here in Montana. It's here. I'm telling you right now, it's here. If you think that Jalisco or what's the other one? The Sinaloa cartel is not here. You'll see it after this talk. They're here. What they do is they'll bring people in. I've been down on the border. I've worked with Sheriff down there, Sheriff Mark Daniels, down in Cochise County. His county is right on the border. Now you can get jaded in one of two different ways. One, that you can get angry at, quote, illegal immigration. Or two, you can get compassionate to people who have been victimized. I'm on the latter. I've been down there, I've worked with them. I know I've been doing this job for 42 years. I understand what I'm looking at. When I worked a shift down there, we did, Border Patrol caught 4 of them, and they were young people. What I did notice when I walked up, because we were the second car in, is the look on 2 of the girls' faces. I don't like the people who are the coyotes that bring them across. They call them coyotes, or depends on where you're from, coyote. I have different words, but they're not good for mixed company. So here's the awful thing they do. There were 2 boys and 2 girls. I walked up, and you can see it if you've done this business for a while, and Larry can confirm, they've been raped. And that happens to probably 97% of the smuggled people coming across. We went up to where some of the hot spots were. I was angry. I was angry for the wrong reason, and after I began to see what's happening to humanity, the cartels are in it for the money. And it's not just cartels, it's big business. It remains one of the higher unreported crimes in the United States. It's actually higher. So the national trends, how do they do this? They offer false job applications, romantic manipulations. They will tell some, that they'll meet online. They fool people to lonely people. And if you think, well, that doesn't happen here, it does. Now think of this. The people that are coming across the illegal aren't necessarily coming to commit crimes. They're looking for a better life. They want a better life. These cartels, and I'm telling you right now, there isn't anything that goes on the Mexican border that the cartels aren't controlling. You can talk to anybody down there, especially in my profession. They know it. The cartels have tried to kill friends of mine in law enforcement. What the cartels have figured out, and I'm going to talk mainly about cartels, they figured out that indentured servitude, meaning bringing it across, they'll charge $15,000 for a person, and then they bring a group of 20 through there. So then there's horrific acts that happen by the time they get to the United States. Well, some people don't have $15,000. So what happens is they'll get their money. So I'll just point out, maybe it might be a Thursday, it might be a Friday, go out to Walmart and see who's getting checks or sending out money orders, and they're going back to Mexico. And you think, well, that's nice. They're going to support their family. That's not where that money's going. That money's going back to the cartels, and they have to pay it off. They have to pay them. And if they don't, I mean, you can fact check me. If they don't pay it off, they kill family members. They got a great business plan. You either do what they say or they kill you or a family member, and that's how they entice you in. They'll do the same thing with migrant workers. They'll say, you can get in, make lots of money, get out. And then they got you hooked. You're indebted to them. So those are the criminal aspect of this is the hard part. So when we say the role of the Mexican cartels and the transnational criminal organizations, it's beyond drugs now. Drugs used to be their major income. Drugs are a one-time use. You kidnap a young girl, you can use her as long as that she, 40, 50 times a week. And if you think about some of the things that are going on, I'm just going to speak real bluntly, and I hope it doesn't make any of you sick, but this is our world. So you're wondering, does it happen here? But the transnational organizations, I mean, you've seen probably documentaries about kidnapping young children in even foreign countries and then taking them and selling them to the highest bidder for sex. If you wonder what to pray for, it's pray that the people who are doing this, that God would minister to their heart. Sometimes picking up a gun and going to war, it just moves around. I do believe in prayer. I believe that it works. Some people think that sometimes it's it just repeats something. But I believe, and I've seen prayer work. So they'll kidnap. I'll tell you a case here in Helena of promises of glory, going to Mexico. I'll pick you up. I'll go to Mexico. We'll go to Mexico together. That's the come on for these young ladies. So a young lady was having problems in Colorado, and her granddaughter was being routinely targeted by a young man who was trying to exploit her. So they moved to Montana. They moved to Lincoln to Montana. But I didn't know, none of us knew. I think it's a year and a half ago, I'm coming back from Lincoln in my patrol vehicle, running radar. I know you think I don't really do anything, but I was. And looking for them nasty speeders. And I was my deal is you really have to work hard to get a ticket from me. I mean, some people talk themselves into it, but it takes effort, because it's a lot of paperwork on my end. Like, just shut up. I just wanted to warn you about your speeding. So I clocked this person at 80 miles an hour right around the Grady Ranch, and it seems like they just went faster. I got turned around and just went quick to catch the person. Lights, sirens, the whole thing. All of a sudden I couldn't see them. Come up the Stemple Pass Road, the dust is just flying. In law enforcement, we call that a clue. It's a lot of dust. I'm thinking, even me, yep, I'll bet you he done went that way. So I turned, went out. It's so thick you can barely see the hand in front of your face, and all of a sudden, probably a mile, here he is. He turned around, and then he just drove right straight at me. And so I thought, well, Lord, here I come. Please don't make this painful. The airbag's gonna give me a bloody nose, but just make me pass out after that. So he turned at the last second. I don't know how he went around, but he went around me. Anyway, I got her turned around. I came back out. He's gone, but I thought, okay, logically, where was he headed first? He's headed back up this way. I'll go this way. Sure enough, that's where he was. So the pursuit continued, blah, blah, blah. And it's a cat and mouse game. I'm getting to the end of this. Anyway, so he dodges me several times. One of a gal who lives up there, I'll lose him, because he's driving this car that's way faster than what I'm driving. I would like a souped up car, just to let you know. Mine isn't. I don't have to pedal it, but I was asking for more power. He's gone. So there is this lady that I know, doesn't know that I'm chasing this person, calls in and says, hey, I just saw this guy driving like crazy. And I'm thinking, hey, I have an excuse. But it was a suspect that went up a gulch, and I didn't know. No one would have known. So I went in there and I called for help, blah, blah, blah. And they were on their way. Anyway, I drove in. I'll wait for backup. Pretty soon he came out. I'm sitting right in the middle of the road. He took another run at me, and he went up an embankment just right beside me. I felt like I could reach out and touch his roof. All this goes on. Finally, we get help, Highway Patrol, my guys. They set up spike strips, and they flatten his tires. He takes off running. That's why I employ young guys. And by then, if you've ever been in a pursuit and someone won't stop, it's like insulting. And it's like only thing I can attribute it to is if you ever seen a dog chase a rabbit. I mean, I'm catching that stupid rabbit. You feel like Yosemite Sam. Look, rabbit. Anyway, he took off running. They did catch him. We got him, pulled him back in, got all kinds of stuff, tickets, that kind of stuff. Put him in jail. Yep, good job. We got him. Anyway, it wasn't until a couple of days later, the lady in Lincoln, Lou Gardella, calls and says, hey, you got the wrong name for that guy. I said, what are you talking about? That's the guy from Colorado that's been trying to kidnap my granddaughter. Are you kidding me? No, that's him. You better check. So somehow there was a mess up in the fingerprints. That was his plan. He was on his way to Lincoln to get the granddaughter, and the granddaughter had been so smitten that she was willing to meet him, and they were going to Mexico, where she would have been sold into slavery. He got extradited to Colorado because he was wanted for armed robbery and a burglary down there. So I kind of let my charges go, and they got to pay for him down there. That's just one example of many that are going on right here. So he's a local guy. So what I'm saying is, if you're looking for somebody that looks like a Mexican, you're wrong. They're just like us, only they're a criminal institution. Before I got training, I know I went to 1 or 2 calls where we got called for a hotel. City was busy, went to a hotel, and you go there and knock, and a woman answers, and you can see a bunch of young gals, oh, we're just partying. that was forced sex prostitution, and I didn't know, I didn't recognize, I hadn't had the training. That was here in Helena, and that was 20 years ago. Oh, it still goes on today. So the labor exploitation, that's what I was talking about earlier, that you see them in contracting, and they're just trying to make a living, but who they're paying is the cartels, and if they don't pay, their family dies. So do they need help? Yes, they do. What's a way to help them maybe find citizenship? There's, I'll give you a number that I wrote down wrong, that'll really help you. But the Department of, DCI, Department of Criminal Investigation, has really advanced their anti-trafficking. They had a news article on it, and I was trying to write it down, and you know, there's only 4 numbers at the end of a phone number. I got 5, so we'll work with that. I'm quick in math, just to let you know. So I already mentioned that the cartels, they don't control a large portion of the U.S.-Mexican border. They control it all. So if you think about our other border, now they're not stupid. They're really not stupid. I like I said, I've been there. I've been into D.C. having really good briefings. They've infiltrated phone companies where if you have a newer vehicle is giving off intel all the time. It's all those sensors, where you're backing up, how you're driving, all of that, telling you you're driving too fast, which you ignore, all of those things. Well, they send off a signal, and when you get close to the border, they pick that up to figure out who you are. When I was there, within a half hour, because we later confiscated a phone, they knew we were in an unmarked vehicle, and they knew we were there. The mistake I made is we got out and did foot patrol. Now the interesting part, I'd flown there, I was dressed in nice shiny pants, not Levi's, not something thick. Well, we weren't supposed to use flashlights, and if you've ever been to the Arizona desert, it's either gonna bite you, it's gonna poke you, or it's gonna kill you. So we're walking around at night, me no flashlight, me no gun. So I'm thinking, okay, who's the stupid one here? Finally I said, what's the word for stop in Spanish? Alto. Okay, that's good, I can do that. And what do I do if we find something? He says, well, just holler out that. And by the way, Mexicans are very fearful of dogs. This worked out perfect for me because I got off on my side. I just knew that I thought I'd had some people, or some of the Mexican people there, and I thought I'd be out there with my finger like this going, alto, 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 and I would sound like a dog. So I thought, well, that'll keep me safe. Anyway, we didn't find anybody. The loudest thing in that desert was me that night. Again, the heavy pants, those brushes when you walk freely.
Yes.
Oh, I've already asked for forgiveness from God for what I said. But I made more noise. We just said, let's pack it up, let's go. So, what do? I mean, I told you how they entice their victims. Or, they may not be victims to begin with, they may just want a better life. They've got to pay. The cartels are making money off of it. The hard part is traffickers will exploit individuals and groups by promising well-paying jobs, confiscating identification documents. That's usually a sign that we see, is if one person out of a group of 20 has all the passports, you know what's going on there. And they'll do that especially with young women. If there's one woman and she's holding 15, 20 passports, they're being trafficked. I've learned that, and that's true. So it does create when they come in for labor, because you can get a temporary visa or something like that for migrant workers, it does blur the line between human smuggling and trafficking, because they get them here and then they exploit them. They say, look, you're not getting back unless you pay. They're a well-organized outfit. So if you think about US and Canada, Canada has a way bigger border than Mexico. Mexico has figured that out. So I'll go over Montana numbers here in just a minute. But that's beginning to occur because they're really putting pressure on the Mexico border in the south. And it's making a difference, it really is. It's just rerouting and they're bringing in. One of the things that we've noticed that has went down is fentanyl. Fentanyl has gone down. Death from fentanyl has gone down. What's gone up is cocaine. So dealing with the root cause of addiction, of faith, that's how you deal with addiction. I believe in treatment, but without changing the heart, you don't change the mind. They've got to understand that someone loves them for who they are and that they can change. I think that's one of the keys to actually changing someone's behavior. If you're changing because someone told you to do it, probably not going to stick. So, financial incentives. The cartels make billions, not millions, but billions. And this is another part that I have done when I was back for National Sheriff's Association, Washington, D.C. We did a public service announcement that with artificial intelligence and the cartels, they're calling you. They've somehow went on Facebook, if you're on Facebook. Yes, I am too. It's a necessary evil, but you've got to do it. But they're finding if they can catch you, your voice, your family members, and then what they do is they call you, and if you have a grandson, granddaughter, they'll pretend that that person's in jail and they need money. So they've switched. The big key is like they want you to go down to Walgreens or CVS and pick up green cards. If you ever get, hey, this is Sergeant McCarthy with the sheriff's office, you got unpaid fines, go down and get these green cards, click. That isn't real. Hang up on them. Every time, hang up on them. Don't even if you're curious, sometimes you'll get different ones. They're not the ones that are over in Asia. I'm not saying this derogatory, but sometimes you'll get a call. Hello, this is Sergeant McCarthy, and we are calling you because you have unpaid traffic tickets. Click! We're never going to call. We're not going to call. If you have a question, you call us, and we'll tell you. Nope. And if you're worried about is your son, granddaughter in jail, call us. We'll tell you. But those are the financial. They're not making millions. They're making billions off of this. The use of violence. Now I touched on this earlier. Cartels are known for kidnapping. That's their biggest thing. Kidnapping, debt bondage. They got you in here. They own you. They're the biggest crime syndicate that you know of. When we first ran into this, they had what they call mules, and they would put drugs in a car. The person driving it is generally here illegally, and the reason that person was driving is that the cartel had their family, and if they got caught or if they gave up, the cartel killed the family. So that's incentive for them to make the drop. We don't know that. We have probable cause to make a stop. The person that's driving the vehicle knows that if they don't get away, their family dies. So you can see what's going to happen. That's where we've had several fights. So we have to figure that out pretty fast. It's a difficult position to be in. We certainly understand, but if you come out shooting because you're shooting, we don't have time to ask questions. That's over. That's done. If there are times that we can visit with you, we'll do that. They do a lot of networks that exhort migrants. The migrants that do come in, they're just, man, they're hit on heavy by these people. They were before we finally started working. I know that sometimes people get pretty mad at Immigration's Custom Enforcement or Border Patrol. Here's what the cartels were doing. If you quit paying, their price, they call Border Patrol and say, hey, Julio is here at the corner. You go pick him up, take him back, so they'd have to pay to come back. So they're not gonna lose money. Well, the Border Patrol figured that out, so they're not doing that anymore. Here in Helena, I talked to Border Patrol, I talked to ICE. You can't have an organization where you have no communication. You just can't, not in my world. I do work with Border Patrol, and I'm telling you, I wish I could tell you some of the cases that we're working right now. It's not about immigration. It's about drugs, and it's about forced prostitution. We can't do this. It's not within our borders. It's happening right here, but we need help. We've got that help, and we're working it. So it's for your benefit, it's for your kids' benefits, for your grandkids' benefits that we do that, and we concentrate on the drugs and the human trafficking. I'm only on page 2. So,
Swell.
where do they go? Where does the cartels go? And I'll tell you right now, we have a hard time with it. They go to the Native American Indian reservations because we have no jurisdiction there. The FBI doesn't have enough people, and they hide there. Well, a lot of the reservations are economically depressed, and they pay big money. They pay big money to keep your mouth shut. So they run a lot of drugs off of there, and if you see a lot of methamphetamines on the reservations, it's the cartels that are hiding it there. We've got a major pipeline called I-15, we've got another major pipeline called I-90, and they move that stuff all the time. They're moving it through here, they're moving it right through here. They have distributors. So when I say distributors, they're local people like you and me who think they're gonna get rich. So let's talk about fentanyl and getting rich just for a minute. Even if you're not good at math, you can go down to the border and you can pick up a fentanyl pill for $5. And you can come to the reservation and sell it for 40. So I'm not great in math, but I'm thinking that's a pretty good profit. That's what entices people who don't have an inclination to have an honest job. And we run into them all the time. That's what we're fighting, is human greed. Then people who take it, overdose it. Now, cartels are recognizing, you're thinking, well, geez, they got a soul all of a sudden. They're recognizing that maybe fentanyl isn't so good because it's killing off their customers. No, they don't care. What they're looking at is how to increase the dollar. Matter of fact, they even help themselves with, anybody heard of carfentanil? Good, I can say what I want. So carfentanil is a elephant tranquilizer, and they're mixing that in with some of the drugs. So the people that we deal with, when you think you combine that, if you are suffering from a mental illness and you take fentanyl or carfentanil, it takes the head of a pin to cause respiratory arrest. Not distress, but arrest. You're dead before you know it. So you act out. Your internal body temperature goes from 98.6 to about 106. Your brain's on fire, and you don't even know what's happening after that. That's the danger of that drug. But it's addicting. We've managed to talk to a few people. Why do you take that? They say it 10 times, the high is 10 times more than methamphetamine. So once you become addicted to the high, then your brain requires it. And that's what we fight as well. Well, let me talk about Montana. Montana has seen a sharp rise in reported, maybe if emphasize reported cases. Reflects both increase in awareness. So some of the things that we're having increased cases because people like you want to educate yourself in what you can do. So we get calls, we get tips. That's why we have a more reported cases. I'll tell you right now, they were here originally. They have been here for a while. It's just you know what you're looking at. And you call and say, you know what, this looks suspicious to me. This little gal looks like she's in distress, and this guy just, if it's nothing, it's nothing. But if it's something, you just saved a life. That's happening more often. So we're doing better at that. So since 2007, Montana has 319 identified trafficking cases, 641 identified victims. In 2024 alone, 43 cases identified, 87 victims involved. And victim is forced sexual prostitution. Some of it is followed by labor trafficking, or getting the gals, and they could be gals, and generally they're not right from Helena. They'll bring them in from Missoula, or they'll bring them in from someplace else, and then there's just people that, with no ethics, that will take advantage of that. They used to do what they call Backpage.com. This will sound terrible, but that activity of Backpage.com really escalated during the legislative session. I'm not making that up. That's true. We work it. There's only so many of us. So what makes this so lucrative? It's a reoccurring, the sex trafficking, having the indentured servitude is a reoccurring revenue source. They've built up their business plan. There are people in here that are distributors, not in here, sorry. You've been shooting at me by now if that had been the case. So, those are the hard parts. Federal prosecution numbers in Montana are fairly low. We don't have a lot of prosecution. We have a smaller caseload, but we're beginning with the grassroots detection system, and that is you. You don't have to go fight the dragon. You just got to let us know. We'll go fight the dragon. To get a little girl, and it's not just girls, it's little boys, back to their family, there's no other feeling like it. It's just awesome, but that starts with you. It's a nationwide issue. Cartels play a major, and it's not just cartels, it's a transnational issue of just perversion. Sex, perversion, addiction. Who can help the most? Well, besides us, churches. You don't have to get out. If you believe in the power of prayer, I've seen it work. I have seen it work. I've been a beneficiary of it. I'll say that to the camera. I've been a beneficiary. Can I get an amen? Amen. It really works. It does. So, what are we going to do? Well, one of the things we need to do is make sure that, that we're communicating with folks like you. So we do have local, state, and federal cooperation. The reason we need federal cooperation is they have partners that they can go to these countries, not just Mexico. It's all over. China is a major exporter of fentanyl, and then they give it to Mexico and they bring it up. Mexico used to build it till it got a little risky, so China does a lot of it. So we really need to concentrate on why you're here tonight, and that is victim-centered approaches and community awareness. And I hope you heard what I said, victim-centered approaches. We need to care for the victims. Some of these people that look like they're dodging because they know if they get caught, it's not from us that they're going to get persecuted. It's from the people who brought them here. Their family is going to die, probably. They're going to get shipped back. They'll start all over again. How do we help? Well, number one, you got to recognize it. Number two, it's a community effort of saying, okay, if you have a trafficked young lady, what services are available? We used to have a home up in Lincoln that would take in gals who had been rescued from prostitution. Well, they kept it quiet for quite a while until the word got out, and guess you know who's come calling once they find that out, so they had to quit. He did a really good job. He worked with the young ladies, got them a job. Imagine your life being shattered. No self-worth whatsoever. None. Everything that was a virtue to you is gone. You can't trust a man at all, because every man that you ever see is paid for time with you, and they only wanted one thing. Those are things that you all need to talk about and say, if me, brought you someone and said, this young lady we just rescued, she's a citizen. Is there any way you can help us? Who could do that in here? Who could say, well, there's a psychologist, 1, 2, healthcare. Oftentimes they're in poor health. 3, addiction. Who can help with that addiction? 4, where can they stay? They got no home. They don't. They're too embarrassed to go home. They don't want to talk to their parents. They're so ashamed. And it wasn't their fault. They were kidnapped. But the shame keeps them from talking. That's how they get them. Once they have them, they won't call home. They don't, because they're so embarrassed. And it's not that they don't want to, it's just what they feel the ridicule is going to be when they get there. So, there are things that you can do, and you're doing really good with that camera.
Thank you. $50 an hour.
Yeah, good. Give the bill to Larry, he's the one that invited me. So, there is hope. Number 1, I'm telling you, if you have faith, pray for reconciliation of the victims. I'm serious about that. 2, seek more information on how to recognize when trafficking is going on, or even indentured servitude. You'll know it. Number 1, they don't speak English. I don't hold that against them. But they're probably here, they're probably making money, they're working for a company, and they're sending all their money back to Mexico, not to the family. The families are not being provided for. Just tell somebody, even if we could get a pipeline, there's an attorney in Missoula that can help with getting citizenship or working through that. So we're not looking, it's not our job to go do immigrations. People are often mad at me that I work with ICE or I work with customs. Immigrations is not our job. There's a separation between federal and the state of Montana laws. I respect that. You don't see a Forest Service out here doing traffic on Euclid. They can't. No jurisdiction. I don't have jurisdiction to go do immigration work. If they have committed a crime under Montana Code Annotated, bing, 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 we have a winner. I have to do something, and we will do something, because we're going to take care of you. We're going to get them in the detention center. They're going to see a judge. And yep, Montana law says I have to let ICE know that they're there. I do. That's according to Montana law. But it's about keeping the community safe. It's not about going around with just looking for people who look like they don't belong here. I probably would have been railroaded out of town about 40 years ago if you'd have been looking for people that looked like they didn't belong here. But I'm here. Anyway, that's about us. It's about what we do. That's about the human trafficking. There's a law enforcement version of this that's much worse. I'll just tell you that. I cleaned it up for what you could stand, but one of the things that they don't count on is a relationship between you and God. That's what they don't count on. They count on greed, they count on lust, they count on you not caring. If you turn a blind eye to what's going on, don't seem to care, that's a moneymaker for them. They do. That's how they make their money, because you didn't care. You wouldn't be here tonight if you didn't care. I tried to give you some ways of hope, and they may seem futile. Oh, yep, we can pray. How many times do you hear that? But if you pray with a fervent heart and believe it, it does make a difference. I'm sure I'd have been dead 10 times over if people hadn't been praying for me. I don't have time, you don't wanna hear it. There's all kinds of stories about that. And I know it wasn't because of my brilliant tactics that I'm alive. It was because I was complacent and I thought I was Superman, that I probably would have died. Anyway, there's other things, other trainings, more trainings that you can do, just awareness. Call, be part of it. You're not a tattletale, you're saving someone's life. And figure out how you can help with social services. Those are things that happen. Larry's coming up with a hook, so. Yeah.
I think you're just arriving. I was hoping to segue right into
Yep,
that.
this airplane has landed, you've made it.
That you might take questions.
Oh, yeah, Larry's gonna take questions now.
I'll ask the first one. Could you address just a little bit more about the vulnerability of young people and how they're coerced away from their families?
Good question. So, did you all hear his question? If not, he'd be happy to repeat it louder. So, just in case you're in the back, I wear hearing aids, so sometimes what I hear you say is, so that's why I try to talk louder. So if I seem like I'm shouting, it's because I have empathy for those who have a hard time hearing, because I'm one of them. So, his question is, how do they get lured? Well, number one, they come from runaways. Runaways, when you see a runaway, that's our biggest issue right away. Were they kidnapped? Were they enticed away? Runaways are the biggest source. Number two, homes where things are going bad. And they meet someone online and tell them how great they are, they're not being loved, all those kind of things. That's a whole nother speech called chatting. But anyway, they entice them by providing what they're not getting in the family. It's attention, love, affirmation, and value. Once they find that, it's like open arms. That's where they get them. They go to meet whoever this nice person is, and they look nothing like what was on the page. Boom, they're gone, and we don't find them again. So it's a way that, okay, how can the church help? When you're talking about love, that starts at home. How do you show that love? But how do you also maintain a household? You don't have to carry around a big bat just to maintain the, yeah, I can see you looking like, tell my mom that. Anyway, so there's got to be consequences for bad behavior, but there's also got to be reaffirmation for when you have done your time, done your penance, whatever you want to call it. Those are the where they get the most from United States, from Helena, Montana, from Missoula, from Billings. That's where they get their favorite target is runaways. The second one is they've got trollers out online. Third, they're always recruiting online, and there's lots of places we could go. Does that answer your question?
It does. May I add?
Yes.
So part of that law enforcement training that Leo referred to, that's a lot worse, well, it's as specific as law enforcement needs. And it was so shocking to me to know how it's happening in Montana that I thought this was actually a good idea. And we've stayed at it for over a year trying to organize this talk because I thought it was that important. But there's a member, he's with Missoula PD, he's a detective there, Guy Baker, and he is on a task force, a federal task force that deals with human trafficking, and he provides this training to law enforcement frequently. And he could talk cases, as Leo did here, and he talked about a case in Missoula where a disaffiliated young lady, teenager, met somebody online, met up with that person, and was in Las Vegas turning tricks in 24 hours.
Wow.
It is, I mean, I don't even know what to say to that. It could happen so quickly. And Leo did a great job, and thank you for reaffirming our role as parents and grandparents and just members of a community, as we are at St. Mary's and in our greater Helena area, of course. And we don't know where that particular moment will come where a kind word or some affirmation might make a difference. And of course, if we're just an open-hearted person, as I think we are, hopefully that comes out a lot, so that no matter who we run into, they're going to get a message, something like that there's kindness and there's acceptance, and it's not always going to be this way for those youth that are in distress.
Any other questions I can't answer? Yes, sir?
So are Native Americans more vulnerable?
Yes, they are. And I've worked with the tribes. I'm not tribal, but I get along great with them. It's all about respect. If they feel like you're respecting their culture, I get invited to ceremonies. I know I look as white as Casper the Ghost, but I still get invited. It's all, for Native, it's all about relationships and do they feel respected. The reason there's a lot of, not a lot of accountability, and some of what I'm gonna say, don't throw bricks at me, but sometimes it's culture. If you value women, if you value their being and you don't beat on them, you're not apt to get abducted as easy. And I don't know how it's any more politically correct to say that. Sometimes women on the reservation get sold by parents. And it's just one of those things, like I said, it's an economic depressed. Sometimes they just come along and kidnap them and nobody misses them for a week. They're already in Mexico or they're already doing the prostitution because nobody turned it in. Montana has passed strict laws that if we get a report of a juvenile, we have to broadcast it either on social media or our, by the statewide notification within 2 hours of us being notified. That's how Montana wants to respond and recognizes that issue. But yes, the Native American population is vulnerable. They're waking up and they're going, hey, some of the things I've seen, I could repeat, but you have to have a feeling of value toward women, and you have to respect that. They're not disposable, and in some cultures that's what happens. So yes, you asked me for the time. I gave you the history of the watch. I apologize for that. Yes, sir.
Leo, my ignorance. What's Backpage.com?
Backpage.com is on the dark web, and if you're into that sort of thing, I don't know. I know the name of it, but it's in the dark web where you can go and find anything you want. And Backpage.com is where ladies of the night, primarily ladies, they advertise, and they advertise their locations. I've been given copies of what it looks like, but I'm not smart enough on the computer, nor do I want to know how to get to it. So that's where it is. They advertise there. If you are looking for love in all the wrong places, you can find it there, and they'll advertise. They'll be in Helena. They'll advertise what hotel they're at, and they'll have a place where they're going to link up. They just don't put the price. So be careful on that. You could get hooked pretty bad. That was a joke. You could laugh at that one.
It's scary.
Leo, we have in Helena, there's a number of unhoused teenagers within the city limits. Is there anything that is being done to try to coordinate with them and the trafficking, or keep it away from that group?
That's a good question for those of you who didn't hear in the back, that we have a number of unhoused teenagers in Helena, and are we doing anything to coordinate with them? Well, first off, the unhoused teenagers don't trust us. They trust you, they don't trust us, because they've had some kind of disagreement with a parent. So it's tough for us. How we are going to work with that is work with It's gonna be public-private partnerships. We're going to work, it's not gonna happen. As much as we think that we go out and save the world, it's not gonna be us in that department. You have to recognize, as one famous actor said, you got to know your limitations. That's one of them. So we need to work with churches, we need to work with social groups who they might trust. Maybe it's their own age group, and saying, hey, why don't you come on over? Have worked with Lifehouse, I don't know if you've heard of them, different temporary housing that for teenagers from probably 10 to 18. Once you're 18, you're out. There are some houses from 18 to 25 that where you didn't learn any work style or any work habits. So there's progress being made, but for the teenagers, that's a rough group for us. We have to partner with all of you, and we agree that they're a vulnerable age target group, but how do you establish that trust when they're being told we're the bad people? So, okay, we're not the bad people, but who can we work with that are the good people and that are trustworthy? Does that answer your question?
It does.
One more.
I was at a local shop recently, and there was a woman in front of me that I had a very strong feeling that there was something wrong. How do I deal with that? Should I have approached her? What do I do?
When you say wrong, was it by actions, or was she despondent, or?
She was
seemed-
shaky. She was trying to cash a check, and the clerk was having difficulty, and I could tell it was beyond just stress. It
Yeah.
was something else. So what do you do in a situation like that?
You can call the office. If you think, so you hit on a good point. I don't know if you heard her. There's a woman in front in line trying to cash a check, very nervous, shaking. That's oftentimes that she's being exploited. So if you see that, you can say something, and that's what the word you might use. I think this woman's being exploited because they're having trouble with a check. And could you just check on her? Doesn't mean she's going to jail. Can you just check on her? That gives us license to do that. You actually have more power as a citizen than we do. We have to have either articulable suspicion or probable cause to start an investigation. If we see something that looks suspicious, okay, but we have to develop it more. But if you call as a citizen saying, I felt that this lady was in peril, there was something wrong, she seemed to be compelled to do this, that gives us license to walk up and say, hey, are you okay? We're not walking up and saying, what's your name? But it's a welfare check. Are you doing okay? There was somebody that said you were having a lot of, looked like a lot of fear. Can we help you with that? And if we do the right approach, sometimes we can intervene. Doing it wrong, it makes it worse, but we're doing the training, so my deputies will approach in a non-threatening way to have that conversation where you could ask, there's nothing wrong with that, but you've got to be prepared if all of a sudden she unloads on you and tells you a bunch of stuff that you're thinking, ooh, have your phone in your hand with 911 pre-dialed. So those are things that you can do. That can tip either way. Sometimes it's a mental health issue, but what you described to me is trying to get money, very nervous. There's probably somebody outside, just a guess, wasn't there.
Yeah, she said someone was waiting in the car for her.
Well, I think you hit on it. And just dialing in and just saying that. And if you can get a license plate number, we'll go check it out. Helena Police will, we will, and, you know, it probably was something that she didn't want, would be my guess. I don't know. But good observation. Now, if you see that again, ring us up.
That's good to know.
Yes, sir.
That was a good example. Are there any other kind of tells? Anything else that if we're out in social and we see somebody, what kind of behavior should we be looking for?
Well, there's a lot of stuff on the internet, behaviors such as if age difference, I mean, tough. If you're out there walking, if you're a 40-year-old male and you have a 10-year-old daughter, you don't want to be thinking that you're being called in for prostitution. But there are behaviors. Number one, does a young lady look relaxed? You can tell when it's dad or when it's somebody that ain't dad. So, oh, I forgot. Yeah. Anyway.
It's okay.
Yeah, all right. So anyway, when you get around this, what you're behaviors are looking for, are they relaxed? Are they nervous? Often the time the adult will look extremely calm. It's the child that you want to focus on. And if the child is constantly being jerked or moved, and you can recognize a look of being downtrodden, sometimes the kid looks like that when they just got caught stealing a candy bar, but there's a difference. You just watch for a little bit, but generally a compassionate dad is going to say, you know what you did, going to go in there and apologize. So those are the behavior. That's what we look for, is the behavioral tells. If you talk to them, the little kid's not allowed to talk. Those are highly suspicious. If they just very guarded about what that little person does, generally that's a gauge for us to start asking more questions. And then if you're met with hostility right away, yep, you're probably onto something. I know I have a face made for radio, so I'm hammering it up. Yes, sir.
I just want to remind everyone here that is trained in our safe environment with the Catholic Church here in the Diocese of Helena, the Virtus tool. A lot of what Sheriff Dutton's talking about, we actually get in our monthly bulletins.
Yes.
So we have a resource that is ready for us right at this moment. You can log in and read the bulletins, and they're kept historically as well. But they cover not only children, but also protecting adults.
Very good, thank you. I didn't know that, so thanks for capping that off. I really didn't give you the resource information, so that's perfect. And some of you that have grandkids that can help you with the computer, we rely on our son. We call him and say, how do you do this? You know what his favorite answer is? Well, Google it and you'll find out. So, we've become proficient in that. Anyway, thank you. No more questions. Generally, that means I went 15 minutes longer than I was supposed to. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for your interest in being part of the solution. God bless you.
I would like to end this also with a prayer. Sheriff Dutton talked to us quite a bit about prayers and the power of prayer, and that is certainly something I think that we're all familiar with. So this is a prayer from the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Loving Father, we seek your divine protection for all who are exploited and enslaved, for those forced into labor, trafficked into sexual slavery, and denied freedom. We beseech you to release them from their chains. Grant them protection, safety, and empowerment. Restore their dignity and provide them with a new beginning. Show us how we might end exploitation by addressing its causes. Help us reach out in support of victims and survivors of human trafficking. Make us instruments of your Spirit for their liberation. For this we pray through our Lord Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God forever and ever. Amen. Thank you again, Sheriff Dutton. Thank you all for coming.